Hi everybody and welcome once again to a very special edition of Lightning TV, the second of our summer updates. And you may recall the last one we had was, seems like a long time ago, way back in May. And once again, I'm delighted to have on the line head coach Lewis Clifford. Cliff, hello again. It's been, well, I was going to say it's been months. Of course it's been months. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good to see you, mate. It has been a while since we last spoke. Seems that way with a lot of people, to be honest. I see certain people a lot, and then other people I basically don't see them at all. So, yeah, it's nice to see you.
It's going to be kind of weird, isn't it? When everything gets back to, we keep talking about this new kind of normal, but when we all start being able to be within like 2 meters of each other and stuff like that, people are going to look really weird in 3D, if not a little bit fatter, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen most of the players that are local to Milton Keynes. You know, either we've done some outdoor training and stuff like that. And it, you know, but then when I saw some of them, it was the first time I'd seen them in months. Yeah, I've seen JMO a few times. He only lives around the corner. I've seen G out. I've passed G on a run a few times. He's been running. I've been biking. Or
I was going to say, when you say past him, you're either going to be running the opposite direction or you're on a bike and he's running, right?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be running faster than him. That's for sure. But yeah, I've seen a few people, but yeah, in general, it's like you said, it's all in 2D. Everyone is on the other end of a computer screen, and it's really becoming like we're used to it now. But it is weird.
It is really, really strange. And as we sit here today, we still really don't know what's going to be the end of it. I mean, I guess the first thing we can talk about is the return to play plan that the National League have got and hockey in general have got. And the IHA and National League, in fact, put out an update just the other day, didn't they, about the return to play? Because everybody was keyed up, certainly from the recreational point of view, the ice users' point of view, in various rinks and arenas around the country to come alive again, if you like. Last Saturday, and at the 11th hour, that was taken from them. And you know, we were talking before we started recording. That has quite an adverse effect on people, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, you know, obviously, I'm not in a position to be, you know, criticising political decisions because, you know, the people that advise, you know, the Prime Minister and whatever are far more intelligent and clued up than I am. But it does seem a bit harsh on rink operators to announce it less than 24 hours before they were due to open. You know, surely if you're making that decision, you knew about that yesterday or the day before or the day before that. You don't have to announce it at, you know, 12 p.m. the day before they were all set to open. You know, it has a knock-on effect on everybody. You know, obviously I want to get the juniors back on the ice ASAP. I also, you know, I've got Lightning players texting me most days asking me when they can get on the ice and have a skate. And you know, everyone's just keen to get going. You know, we've had far longer away from the rink this year than we ever normally would have had. And it's just, you know, it's just frustrating, I think is the best word. And I don't work for the ice rink, you know, I don't rely on the ice rink to employ me. So, yeah, it's not good for those people. You know, we work really closely with our rink staff. And I know how hard they were all working to get the building ready for a Saturday opening last week. And that was kind of just snatched away from them at the last minute.
Yeah, and as well as the staff as well, obviously. You talked about your involvement with the juniors there, and on social media last Friday night and certainly on Saturday as well, that, you know, seen a lot of the parents of the juniors who were absolutely keyed up to go and skate with their friends and everything else. And it's got to be tough for the kids.
Yeah, that's it. You know, for us as adults, is, you know, we're disappointed, but we also understand. Well, not understand, but we realise that we are, you know, there's a lot bigger things at play here. Whereas for the kids, you know, if they get told that next Saturday the rink's open and they can go skating, they expect next Saturday they're going to be going skating, and it's not fair on them, really. You know, I worry. You know, I've got kids, as you know, and you know, they're almost having, you know, what are we now, 6 months of their childhood kind of robbed from them. You know, and it's not just social activities. You know, school. A lot of kids are going to be going back to school in September that haven't stepped foot inside a school building since March, and it's just not, you know, we're adults, you know, we've had our time, we've done our, you know, our education and all those bits and pieces, but for the kids, you know, it's going to take them a lot of period of adjustment to go back to sport, you know, to go back to school, to go back to sitting down in a classroom all day, you know, from 9 o'clock till 3 o'clock or whatever. And really, in my opinion, the sooner we can get them back to things safely, the better, back to normality, because it's hard on the kids.
Yeah, and as I say, it's been a long, long time, hasn't it? I know some of the kids around the junior club have been, you know, since they've been allowed to, they've been getting together with their parents in car parks, and they've been skating around, if only to keep kind of that social group going, and give them some kind of engagement with each other as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that. You know me and kind of my social circle, and my best mates now are still the same best mates that I played hockey with when I was 12, you know, 10, 11, 12 upwards years old. And it's really important to be tight, you know, with your team, because ultimately, you know, you play with the same kids from now till you're, well, 18 effectively, either 1 year older or 1 year younger than yourself. And I really like to see it when teams do get together, obviously observing the current rules, because the quicker everybody observes them, hopefully the quicker we can get ourselves out of this situation. But yeah, it's great to see them trying to get some social activities going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that brings us on nicely to when we do open, and the plan still is at the moment, or it certainly hasn't been put back, the plan still is for the National League, if you like, to try and get going with games beginning of October. We still don't know where that's going to slip, or you know what's going to happen around that, but that's still the plan as it stands at the moment. There's no change there.
Well, yeah, it has to be movable, doesn't it? You know, we would start tomorrow if we were allowed. You know, if crowds are allowed and the rink was open, we'd start tomorrow. You know, we're desperate to get started, but at the same time, you have to make sure all 10 teams are ready to go. You can't start when one team's, you know, building's not open or what have you. And you know, it has to be safe, and obviously crowds need to be allowed. You know, ice hockey in this country is not football. You know, we haven't got multi-million-pound TV deals funding us, or huge sponsorship deals with you know, multinational companies. But you know, we're a very small sport, and one of the biggest sources of if not the biggest source of income for us is people paying their money to get in on the Saturday night. So you know, whilst we're ready to go, we can only be ready to go when we know how many people we're allowed to bring into the building. You know, if that's a reduced capacity, then, you know, we're going to have to tweak the business plan, because, you know, it's not going to work exactly as it was. If that's full capacity, but a little bit later, then we might have to wait. But, you know, it's all very movable. So all we can do is plan that if we start tomorrow, we'll be fine. If we start on the 1st of October, we'll be fine. If we start on the 1st of November, we'll be fine. And obviously the only difference being is that the season can't go on forever, because that will have obviously a knock-on effect to the following season and the following season. Also, you're getting into, well, if you went on too long, you'd be getting into holiday periods and stuff like that when your crowds would be down anyway. So the later we start, we can move the end back a bit later, but you can't move it back forever. So it would just end up being, I think, probably a shortened season if we don't get going soon enough.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? And I guess, you know, there are no easy decisions around this to be able to go and do this. As you say, you know, teams have got various business plans, and all the business plans around the league will be vastly, vastly different because of the attendances around the league. When you look at Elite League, for example, they've got God knows how many issues, haven't they? Because they're spread across effectively 4 different countries, all with 4 different sets of rules: who can open, who can't open, and so on and so forth. And I guess to an extent as well, you've got the increase in people flying in from outside of the country. They've got to take that on board. I was going to ask you actually, the Elite League, if they're not sure if they're going to play this next season at all, do we start seeing indications of that fairly early? We've already seen, for example, some fairly high-profile imports leaving Elite League sides and going to play in Europe and back in the States and in Canada where they can, of course. Are we going to start seeing Brit players maybe being released by teams or moving? Is that going to have an impact on our league?
I don't know, is the answer to that. I mean, I know people that operate within the Elite League, and I do speak to them, you know, from time to time. And from a player point of view, I don't think many of them really having much of an idea what's happening. I've heard from quite a few places that they were going to plan for a December start, but I don't know. You know, that their businesses obviously have very different models to ours. You know, well, not most, probably half of them play in big arenas that aren't just ice skating rinks. You know, they rely on whatever they have in their concerts, or, you know, Disney on Ice, or whatever else they have throughout the year to make it viable to open their doors. Otherwise, why would they open just for a hockey team to play once a week? But yeah, you know, you made a good point there about people flying in. You know, obviously, I think Canada have done a really good job of, you know, of sort of stomping on the virus and keeping numbers low, but the USA certainly haven't.
No.
So, you know, a lot of imports in the Elite League are Canadian, obviously, but quite a few are American as well. Some might be Canadian that live in America. Some might be Canadian who have to fly via America to, you know, because they come from a more remote part of Canada. So the problems are numerous, I guess, for the guys in that league. You know, we've got it quite easy, really. You know, the only players for us would be our imports, who are European-based anyway. And obviously, because of everything that's been going on, Stewie never went home, so he's still in England, which is great. So the rest of our players are all in England, apart from Harry, who's in Scotland. And, you know, he'll be down whenever it's safe for us to start. And, you know, the rest of us are all ready to go, and we're here and present.
Yeah, I've been coming onto the team, actually, because it's a brilliant way to lead into the team. I guess we'll start talking about the signings and looking around social media. All of them have started their pre-season work and everything else, because it does start early, doesn't it? They just don't strap a pair of skates on and just go for their first skate and hope to build up from there. I know Stewie, you've already mentioned him. He was absolutely crying out for somewhere to go and skate, but he started his gym work and everything else. And you look at people like Covey, who just appears to be, you know, 100% on the beach right now and just throwing himself around the beach and getting himself fitter. And, you know, the guys are all starting to work at it, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny old year, Dicko, because normally you know how long you've got. So you finish in April, you probably, you know, you're a bit banged up and you need some time off. You probably have the rest of April, maybe a little bit of May of pretty much doing nothing, probably just resting, getting your body back to some sort of normality. And then, yeah, you'd ramp it up probably May, June, July, and probably, you know, we would always start skating informally in July, you know, just getting the guys together to have a skate July, August, and then you go in September. But because we firstly went on a break so early, and secondly, because we don't actually know when we're coming back, it's tough. But yeah, I'm quite encouraged by seeing, you know, what the guys are up to. Like I said, I've met some of the local guys for outdoor workouts in Milton Keynes, and, you know, a lot of them have got certain objectives, you know, and that they're meeting them. Like, you know, Sammy Russell's put on quite a lot of muscle. You know, he's been working out quite hard, and I think eating everything in sight to put some muscle on his frame. And I know Louis's been working really hard with a personal trainer. Like you said, Covey never really stops. Even when he had a plaster cast on his leg, he's always up to something. I did some training with him myself before he went back home. But yeah, all the guys are keen. And I'm pretty sure if I sent out a text message today to say ice tomorrow, who's coming, every single one of them would reply and say yeah. So. Yeah, you know, we're in other people's hands at the moment, but the guys are ready and the guys are chomping at the bit.
It's frustrating as well, isn't it? Because I was looking at the diary earlier, and in only a couple of weeks, got it actually still in the diary. It would have been the media day.
Yeah,
we'd all been getting together, doing the roster shots, the video shots, interviews, and all those kind of things. And those timetables are now going to keep going past, frustrating as it may be. And I guess it is a case of just keep seeing what goes on and just being ready. I want to talk about the team now, because there's a lot of talk around the team. There's a big buzz around this team now for this season, around potentially what the capability of the team is going to be. There's a bit of speculation about maybe the last few roster spots, we'll find out those. Obviously, Harry has been announced just over the last couple of days or so. But there's a lot of depth in there this season again. And you said you didn't want to make too many changes, but the changes you've made are just going to add that little bit. And that's not taking away anything from anybody that may not be rejoining for this season.
Yeah, you know, I didn't like. I've been on record several times over the off season saying I didn't want to make too many changes, and really, you know, last year we took far too long to get going, far too long, and I know we had injuries and whatever, and not just injuries, like really crucial injuries to the team, but it just took too long, and you know, obviously a lot of that responsibility falls on myself. Some of it falls on the players individually, but you know, as an organisation, as a team, we were brand new, and it just took forever. Like, it wasn't forever, but it seemed like forever. Yeah. All of September and all of October, really. And you just can't have a 2-month run up into a season. You can't afford that. And in the end, our league position was what it was purely because of those first couple of months. Yeah. Because, you know, if you looked at the stats from like November, I think, you know, Matt, one of the directors, he ran the stats for me because he's good with spreadsheets and stuff. And I think it's from the 1st of November, we would win the league at the point we stopped by like 1 point. And if you're taking the stats from the start of December to the end of when we finished, it was even a bigger buffer. I think it was about 4 points. But that, you know, the best team for whatever, well, it should have been 52 games, wins the league. It's you know, it's not, you can't argue. Like, Telford were the best team in the league. They won the league from when the first puck dropped in September to when the premature end of the league happened in mid-March. Telford were the best team. They won the league, right? They also won the cup, so which sort of just puts a bit of a full stop on that sentence that they were the best team. And then the playoffs never happened. So, yeah, I didn't want to make too many changes. There was areas that I looked for improvements in. But at the same time, I also didn't want to bring in loads of guys that I don't know again and have to get to know them. Yeah. Because that was also part of the problem. You know, how do I know a guy that I've never met before other than speaking to him on the phone? Does he like, you know, being cuddled, or does he need to be shouted at? You know, I don't know that. That takes me time to learn. Yeah. So obviously, with the additions that we've made, Bobby, you know, we all know Bobby and Milton Keynes. You know, Bobby's got so much potential to be one of the very best players in this league. He needs to be handled in the right way. I think he spent a few years either probably being allowed to kind of do what he wants, or just becoming increasingly frustrated playing on the team that he was playing on. But the one thing about Bobby that people probably that don't know him that well don't realise is all he wants to do is win. But sometimes he just needs to be shown the way a little bit, that sometimes doing certain things aren't a great idea for the overall scheme of things. And, you know, for example, Bobby doesn't need to prove to anyone in the league how tough he is, because everybody already knows. Yeah. You know, we don't want or really need Bobby fighting every second game or every. I was
going to say you don't need tough Bobby Chamberlain, do you? You need playing Bobby Chamberlain. We all know what he can do. You know, when he's on his game and he's absolutely flying. There's you know, as you say, on the best Brit forward in the league.
Yeah. So obviously there's Bobby. You know, he adds so much to us, and you know, he's a great guy, and he's a guy that wants to do well for the team. Then there's Nagsy. Obviously, I know Nagsy. I coached Nagsy when he was a little kid. You know, probably 10, 11, maybe 12 years old. I coached him obviously in the Storm Juniors. I've coached him at Southwest Conference level. Actually, I had a really good team one year at Southwest that contained quite a few of the players that are on our team now, like Jordan Lauday, Rio, Nagsy. You know, a really good team, and we went and won the championship there. You know, so I know Nagsy, and I think if you put those two together, Bobby and Nagsy, you couldn't get two people that are more different. You know, you always know when Bobby's in the room, whereas Nagsy's quite happy to just sit quietly and go about his business. He's quite a shy guy, but he's at this level a top end puck moving defenseman.
I was going to say with Nagsy, do you get, with no due, with the greatest respect to everybody that's with us now and with us been before, but apart from being a left-handed D-man, which is obviously what we needed, does Nagsy give you that little bit extra? Does he give you that little X factor thing that maybe we'd needed, that little extra spark? Because as you say, he does move the puck from back to front really well. Yeah,
he does, but I think some people maybe who have been critical of the team in the past probably don't see that we also have a couple of guys here already that could do that. Look at how many points JMO scored last year. Yeah. Griff obviously had a season that was very much interrupted by injury, but he's a regular assister and goal scorer at this level.
You never thought we'd ever say that about James Griffin. Bearing in mind 2-3 seasons ago, they were making T-shirts when he scored his first goal.
Well, yeah, but the boys found that quite amusing, who have been around for a few years, because obviously, like 3 years ago in the EPL, Griff had scored like 20 goals or something like that.
And he scored in Coventry, didn't he, when he was there?
Yeah, it's always nice to get on Griff's back anyway, to give him a bit of grief. But and then you've got Sam Russell. The sky's the limit for Sammy. He's such a young guy. He's so coachable. He's so athletic. He's so desperate to do well. He'll listen to anyone on the team that can help him. He's a guy that comes to me on the bus on a Sunday and says, "Can I borrow the video of the game from last night?" And he'll take the memory stick up and put it in his laptop and watch it. He's a guy that wants to be a hockey player and will be. So bringing Nagsy in, obviously we needed some lefties, but this time last year I wasn't really gifted with a massive selection of players that wanted to come and play for this club. So, but I also wouldn't have signed someone just because they're left-handed if they're not as good as someone else that I could have signed who's right-handed. Because
absolutely,
you're almost robbing Peter to pay Paul there. You're like, well, I've got a lefty, but I'd rather have two righties out there. I've got enough good defensemen that can receive a pass on their backhand that isn't too much of an issue. But Nagsy helps us massively. He can run a power play from the top if need be. He can play on either side. And I think just with the group that we've got, I think we've got a good mix of stay-at-home guys. Guys like Louis and maybe Sloth to some extent. Griff can do a bit of both. JMO likes to rush the puck. So, I think we've got a good core of D, and I'm looking forward to seeing them and playing about with the pairings and see, where we end up.
Yeah, interesting comment you made about the when we announced Lewis Christie, of course, when you said about the fact that he goes about his job quietly. The only time you really see him is when he puts in his trademark hip check. That really has been a trademark for him over the years. But it's like you said, he just eats minutes. He just eats and eats minutes, doesn't he? He's one of those absolutely reliable players that you can just turn to every single time. Yeah,
I mean, if we go on the penalty kill, which is something that we did far too much of last year, if I put, say, Louis and Griff out there, they're going to kill off 1 minute 20, maybe 1.5 minutes of that penalty generally. And then the next two guys can go on for the next sort of 30-40 seconds, finish it off. And there is, every team needs that. You cannot have like 6 or 5 or 7 defensemen that all want to rush the puck up the ice every time they get it. It wouldn't work. You see it in the NHL sometimes. In fact, I was watching a game the other night, the Leafs game against Columbus, and the one chance that Leafs really got to go at Columbus, who are such a strongly disciplined defensive team, was when all the D jumped in, they turned the puck over in a bad area, and there was a 2-on-1 going back, and they scored and ended up winning the game because of it. You need all sorts, and Louis has never let this club down. He's certainly never let me down, even when he played for me for a year with Thunder as well. He's just a solid player. Of course, sometimes he makes mistakes, but who doesn't? But his mistakes are few and far between, and he just does what it says on the tin every night.
Just gets on with it. And of course, all those guys in D playing in front of two returnees between the pipes, of course, both young lads, both of them had a couple of issues around injuries last season. It probably curtailed him, and we were lucky that we got Skinsey to come in, of course, and help cover. These two guys, for me, I think now with these two guys, with this foundation they've got, best net-minding tandem, I think, in this league as a pair.
Yeah, I think so. I struggle to think of a team that's got two goalies that are as good as the two that we've got. They both did have a tough ride last year, and then, like you said, Skinsey came in to help us, and I couldn't be more thankful for what Skinsey did for this team last year. He was amazing. I actually saw him the other day because he came to pick up his gear, if something was to happen to either of our goalies again early season, Skinsey would be the first guy I called. Yeah. Unless he's obviously fixed himself up with a team elsewhere, which I don't know if he has or not. But yeah, the potential is huge. With both our goalies, but Jordan's a young man, very young, really, in the grand scheme of things, and nobody just becomes experienced overnight. Yeah. You can't manufacture experience. You can't buy experience. You can't just read a book and become experienced. He's got all the raw talent in the world that he needs to be one of, if not the top goalie in this league, for years to come. How he manages situations within games and stuff, he improved that as the season went on, and I believe he'll continue to do so. And Stonesy's just a great guy. He's a really competent goalie. He could be a starter at other teams. He's better than some of the team starters in this league. But I've never known a guy as much sort of as team first as Stonesy. He had a rough ride of it. There was times, when I just had to sit down and discuss with him why, I was going to go with Jordan and Skinsey for a little while. And whilst he wasn't happy, which you don't want him to be, you don't want someone going, all right, then I'm not playing great.
No, he wants to compete, doesn't he?
Yeah, he understood, and he was still at every practice. He was still at every game. He was still supporting the guys. And yeah, as soon as he was fit again, I've got no hesitation to give those two another crack at the whip. And I'd like to think that, between the two of them, they'll get the job done this season and maybe come back for a third season as a pair. Yeah. Who knows? But, I can't look too far into the future. But, with the relative ages of those players, they could be here for a long time to come.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it says a lot for me, the pair of them, when they came back from, both of them had quite serious injuries that put them both out, and it didn't knock them as such. They just got back on with it. They got themselves back to fitness. Could be argued that maybe Lords came back a little bit too early in his concussion, but they battled back, didn't they, and didn't lose that quality later on in the season.
No, they didn't actually. They both got better as the season went on, despite the fact that they both missed chunks of the season, and partly, that was due to the support that Skinsey gave him. Very, very quiet guy, but I know that they have their weird goalie talk where the three of them are all like huddled together on the ice during practice and whatever. I don't know what they talk about. I don't really want to know, to be honest. But Skinsey was huge in that, and like I said, I'm more than happy with the goalies that we've got signed up for next season.
Good stuff. Okay, let's look at the tip of the spear then. Our forwards so far. Stewie, we've talked about Liam quite a lot. Seems to be enjoying his summer, getting back on it, getting back into the swing of things, and looks like he's raring to go again.
Yeah, I haven't seen Stewie since that last day at the rink. Obviously, I see what he gets up to on social media and stuff. And
he's turned into his own brand magnet, isn't he?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure about the game and stuff. That's not really my cup of tea. But I'm sure a lot of us are envious of the other stuff he gets to get up to during lockdown. That got a gym, he's got a swimming pool, he's got he's got everything he needs there. But yeah, no. As far as I know, well, I do know, he's desperate to get back on the ice. He said this is the longest he's ever been off the ice. So, it'll be great to see him when he does appear and the rink's open and see him back on the ice.
Yeah, Kobe we've already discussed. Obviously, he's doing his thing, and there's no doubting he'll be absolutely amazingly fit by the time he gets back. Rio's back, as is Holden Barnes-Garner as well. And again, two youngsters that are really, really developing their game. Rio with a real opportunity this season to really push on.
Yeah, I felt for Rio a little bit at times last year. He takes a lot of pressure internally on himself that isn't there. That it certainly isn't put on him by myself or by Roscoe or by anybody else. And he goes. If you look at his stats, actually, he scored quite a few goals. I think he had 19 goals last year.
Something like that. Yeah.
He would have had 20 if we'd have carried on playing, no doubt in my mind. But if you look, there was a massive chunk in the middle where there was nothing really. And what Rio has got attributes that no one else has got, and they're actually, I don't know if they're God-given attributes, but certainly attributes that you can't just give to somebody else. Like you can't just tell somebody else to skate as fast as Rio, for example. One of his main skills is his relentless work rate, and that actually is an ability. People think, oh well, anyone can just work hard. Well, anyone can work hard, but you have to have that in you. And he never stops. He does everything at 1,000 miles an hour. He never stops, and he gets his rewards. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency from him this year, where he doesn't beat himself up if he doesn't score. He just goes the next night and maybe scores, rather than he was a frustrated figure for the middle part of the season. He's got a big opportunity this season to really cement himself as like an impact player in this league. And the other one you mentioned was Holds.
Holden, yeah.
Yeah, and Holds has been working real hard this season to get himself in good shape. This off season, not this season. He's got an opportunity there because as it stands, our squad will be slightly smaller than it has been, as in numbers of people rather than physical size.
Yeah.
Because things are a bit uncertain with when the league's going to start and finances and things like that. So he's going to have a lot more opportunities to be the guy that jumps up when someone's missing, someone's sitting a 10-minute penalty, someone's injured, whatever. And
he'll take that, won't he? He'll take that. He'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got a lot of attributes again that are not easy to actually find. He's really good around the net. I think sometimes he doesn't have the confidence in games, or he doesn't necessarily get himself into the positions to show those skills. But he is really good around the net. Obviously, he's got a lot of physical attributes. He's a tough lad, but he's not a dirty player or a cheap player or someone that goes after people unnecessarily. One of the biggest things, a bit like I said about Stonesy, is every player on the team loves Holds.
Yeah,
he's just a glue guy. He's a guy that he keeps the banter ticking over in the room. Whether it's at his own expense or someone else's. He's popular. He's funny. Everybody likes him, and now is the time for him to sort of take the step from being a great guy, popular in the room, popular with all the guys, and now sort of kick on and be not only all that, but also an impact player on the ice as well.
Definitely. You mentioned as well that Holds is really good in front of the net, and one person, obviously, I think you made the reference to it in the end of season awards videos that we did, which sounds like an age ago now. Harry, of course. Harry's just been announced as coming back, and I think in the video you said he scored plenty of goals last season, none of them more than 10 feet away. He's really much a go-to guy, gets in those messy areas, but produce results.
Yeah, and you know what, I think there was a bit of a light bulb moment for Harry probably a couple of months in. I don't know if he maybe had thoughts that he was dropping down the league, so he was going to be a different type of player to what he was.
Yeah.
But generally, you know, as a leopard, you don't change your spots, right? So once the penny dropped with Harry, he was really effective. You know, like he seemed like he was scoring a goal probably every weekend at least. You know, if not on Saturday, he'd get one on Sunday, and he was a pivotal part of that second power play unit. You know, and once he realised what his role was, and you know, I have to take responsibility for that as well. You know, sometimes I don't think I need to spell things out to people because I expect them to know, and maybe they do need it spelled out to them, like exactly what I wanted. But yeah, Harry came on in leaps and bounds last year, and you know, he's a big lad. He's actually got a really good shot. You know, he's not afraid to play physically. You know, he's a good skater. He's got the complete package. And when he does what he's good at, he's a really effective player.
Yeah.
You know, and again, another guy who's, you know, he's popular in the room. I like him. You know, he's low maintenance, and you know, he's just another solid addition to the team.
Brilliant. Let's talk about the guy that's going to be leading. Before we come on to the one more player I want to talk about, let's talk about the guy who's going to be wearing the C once again this coming season. And in all the years I've been watching ice hockey, I've met a lot of hungry players. And when I was chatting to Russ a little while ago, we were trying to record an interview, which unfortunately didn't record properly. So we'll hopefully get that done again at some point. I've not known somebody quite as hungry as Russ Cowley for quite some time. Absolute professional in everything he does. But boy, oh boy, for this season especially, that guy is hungry for something, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And I think, you know, again, it seems like I've got a pre-written script about a lot of players. His season wasn't what he would wanted it to be health-wise last year. You know, he got a couple of injuries, one that kept him out for a long time, and then one towards the end that kept him out for a short time. But, you know, his record speaks for itself, I think, is the best way to, you know, to say it. You know, he's won, I don't know how many trophies he's won, but I know he's won a lot of trophies, you know, in Coventry, you know, a Grand Slam and numerous others. And you just can't buy experience. You know, like I said earlier, that he is obviously not so much a pro anymore because he has a full-time job and he plays hockey around his full-time job, but he is a pro. He prepares for games like a pro. You know, he talks like a pro. He plays like a pro. He does all the little things on the ice that a pro does. And, you know, he was a great captain. How many more years Cows will play for, I'm not sure. There was a bit of arm twisting going on.
I got that impression when I spoke to him.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the guys, myself included, but I know Cowles is one of them, felt that there was a bit of unfinished business there last year. You know, we didn't do ourselves justice at the start of the year. We didn't have the chance to compete for the playoffs at the end of the year. So, you know, whether it's a final kick of the can or, you know, if he wants to play for a few more years, but there isn't a team in this league that wouldn't want Cowles playing for him. And probably there isn't a team in this league that wouldn't make him the captain if he walked through their door. So, you know, I'm delighted that he's here. He's a top guy and a solid professional hockey player.
Yeah, top man. Okay, last one for those now, because there's obviously still maybe a couple to come. I'm not going to press you on how many, who possibly. I'll let us do the announcements over the next few weeks. The fans can find out. But I know this guy was on your shopping list and on your thought list for quite some time, and you've got him. You've got that signature, Eddie Bebris.
Yeah.
Signing.
So Eddie's the only guy on the team now that I've never coached or worked with before. So he's the one, you know, the one that I need to get to know a little bit. But, you know, all the references I get on him are that he's just a really good guy. You know, so Covey played with him, you know, and he said he's a great guy and he'd love to play with him again. You know, and normally if people say that, you know, sometimes, you know, when people don't say things about people, it tells its own story.
Yeah.
You know, when he's being so positive about someone, he knows there's a good chance if he's giving me a good reference, the guy's going to end up on his team. So, you know, he's a really good guy. Apparently, I need to get to know him, but you know, he's a premier forward in this league. You know, you
Definitely.
look at what he's done over the last few years in this league. Little time in the Elite League as well, but in the EPL, he's a player. I remember him playing when he was really young for Sheffield. I was like, Jesus, who's that big lad? You
Yeah.
know, like, and he's just been good everywhere he's been. You
It
know, he
seems
went to
like he's been around forever, doesn't he? Seems like
yeah,
he's
he
been around
went to
for ages.
Manchester. He went to Peterborough for a bit. And obviously, he's settled in Swindon for a while now. But yeah, he is. He's a top end player in this league, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. You know, the options on our sort of top two lines really, but across all the lines are quite exciting. When you look at those sort of, say, if you throw 6 names in there and you start looking at them and start moving them around into different combinations, there's numerous ways you can play it that look really appetising. Obviously, some of them will work and some of them just won't. But you know, I'm looking forward to having that in front of me and being able to move it around and see how it comes out.
That was going to be my next question, because I'm looking at the names written down here of your forwards, and I'm thinking there's not many people that would envy your job of actually naming maybe your first two, arguably even your first 3 lines with the list of names that you've got down there. And as you say, some of them might not work, some will work, but anybody else around the league is going to read that and think, how am I going to combat that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, you know, sometimes it doesn't work the way it looks on paper anyway, you know, and you sort of chuck something together and you find something like at a later date. But, you know, there's some obvious sort of pairings and partnerships, you know, like Stewie and Covey played really well together last year, you know, so certainly in the first instance, I'd be silly to probably keep them, you know, to not keep them apart, to not keep them together, sorry. And then you look, well, who can play with them? Well, Eddie Bebris, Bobby Chamberlain, not bad. You know, like you know, either of those 2 guys for a start could play on that other wing and complement those 2 guys.
You've also got the added fact that every now and again, JMO decides he wants to be a forward as well.
Well, yeah, actually, JMO had some really good games as an actual forward last year.
As an actual forward, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like, so yeah, you just sort of look around and whatever the first time we all get together, whichever colour shirt I put people in for practice the first night, doesn't mean it will stay that way. But it also gives us a lot of options of lefties and righties on the power play, which is exciting. But yeah, like you know, I've got ideas of what the lines are going to be. Obviously, I've spoke to Bowers a lot about it and whatever, and I'll keep that to myself for now because it might not work, and I'll look like a genius when I find something that works. But yeah, I've got ideas, and I'm just so, you know, excited about when the day is going to be that I get to see it on the ice.
You got, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple, maybe a few more players to come in. I know that I'm not, as I say, I'm not going to push you on that, but overall strong looking squad. So that's the squad dealt with. Management wise, over the summer, you know, great communication from the club. They've kept everybody informed as much as they could be. Obviously, Claire and the you know, the directors are all working as hard as they possibly can and pushing to make sure everything is ready. And you know, when the season does come, everything will be ready, raring to go. I mean, I'd imagine when you walked into the locker room to sort some bits and pieces out last week, it must have been a bit spooky because everything would have been just as the day you walked out.
It was like one of those films where they walk into like a building that's just been deserted.
Yeah.
You know, like, it was weird. Yeah, it was weird. Like, all my writing was still on the board from the last game, and guys, you know, I did empty the bins before I left on the last day, so there wasn't rubbish in the bin. But short of that, it was like the boys could just walk back in and put their kit back on, and carry on. So yeah, it was a little bit bizarre. But yeah, it's been, you know, it's been a tough time for me personally, because hockey is what I do now. You know, obviously since I gave up my full-time job over a year ago now, you know, I dived straight into hockey and I work some serious hours, you know. I'm not asking for a pat on the back for that. That's what I gave up my job to do. And I've gone from, you know, being at home probably no longer ever than about 3 or 4 hours awake at a time to being at home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is hard for me. But, you know, other people within the sort of management team have full-time jobs, obviously, and they do this as their spare time. And
Yeah.
still, like, their work rate is exceptional. You know, how much work they're able to get through on top of doing a full-time job. You know, we have a meeting every week and we discuss sort of, we have pretty much a set agenda where we go through, you know, 6 or 7 different things. And a lot of the time, the answer is nothing's changed since last week. Obviously, you know, we're in a slow-moving world at the moment as far as being a hockey team goes. But, I'm just never fails to amaze me how much work these people do, how much they care about getting this club, you know, along the right track. You know, all the work that goes into selling season tickets, people going out trying to get sponsors, you know, discussions with the league, discussions with the EIHA, all of that. And actually, you know what? I've got the easiest part of that because I just deal with hockey players. Yeah. And do they annoy me? Yes, they do. I get ridiculous text messages and phone calls asking me for stuff that in August, when we don't know when the season's going to start, are completely irrelevant to my life. But obviously that's my job, so I deal with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bit like being a babysitter for a load of grown men. But it's been great working alongside all of the members of the board and everything. You know, everyone's got their little, not little, their sizable piece of the jigsaw that they do. And, you know, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed and touching wood a lot that we're going to, you know, get to see it all come together sooner rather than later.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, I know the work they are doing, and there's some big plans further down the line that, you know, that they'll come to fruition. They'll be announced in due course, of course. But they really want to move as club, and I guess the MK hockey community in general really forward. You touched on season tickets there. One thing that's been absolutely amazing, bearing in mind we don't know when we're opening, we don't know exactly when the start of the season is going to be, and you know, we don't know what the restrictions may be, if any, around people coming into the rink. Season ticket sales are they've been absolutely flying. It's the take-up has been phenomenal. Yeah,
obviously, you know, we as a club, you have to be in a position to do things the right way. So we can't get that season ticket money and start spending it because, firstly, nobody is entirely sure when the season's going to start. No. We're still obviously not entirely sure if it will be a full 52, 54 game season, whatever it's supposed to be. So it would be negligent, irresponsible and immoral for us to take that money from people and start spending it. Because what happens if the season doesn't start? Well, everyone needs their money back. What happens if the season's only, you know, 2/3 of the normal length? Then people need 1/3 of their money back, and so on. So the season ticket, for me, the biggest thing was like, wow, look what we've done, really. Yeah. You know, that we've got this many people that, despite a global pandemic, for a lot of people, a lot of us, you know, are struggling financially.
Yeah, they're willing to commit.
We've got that many people that are willing to commit money to come and watch us when we're able to play again. And that's phenomenal, really. And you know what, that's got a lot of strands to it. You know, the sort of attractive, sexy one is the product on the ice on a Saturday night. Yeah. But there's so much more to it than that. You know, all the marketing, all the social media stuff, all the engagement stuff. Without that, we could have the best team in the world playing in Planet Ice Milton Keynes on a Saturday night. No one know anything about it. Yeah. So, you know, it's got a lot of strands to it, and it's mainly Tom that does all the social media, and his wife Vicky helps him. It's been phenomenal, you know. It's would be easy to get sucked into just releasing media for the sake of releasing media. But actually, there isn't that much to tell people at the moment. No. So you've got to pitch it at the right level and make sure we're engaging with our fan base. You know, we're letting them know we're still here. We're still signing players. We're still getting ready without oversaturating everyone's media feeds every time they open their phone or look on their laptop, because actually there's more important things going on in the world as well that we have to be, you know, we have to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely. I want to mention the supporters club as well, because they've been doing great work throughout the closed season as well. They've been organising raffles and so on and so forth. And then Dave and Rebecca and co launched some new merchandise a few weeks ago, including face coverings, which apparently are absolutely flying out the door. And I think Dave's not stopped working since. No, that's a lie. Dave will have been on the golf course at some point.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's definitely been playing golf.
He's definitely been playing golf. But a phenomenal effort once again. And I've got to say thanks to the fan base as well for supporting all that merchandise, because the sales in the first week, they really did fly out the door, didn't they? They've been absolutely phenomenal, the fans.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can get a face covering at the minute from just about anywhere, can't you? If you've got a football team, a rugby team, whatever favourite sort of sports brand or whatever that you like, you can get a face covering. But yeah, I heard that they were going like hotcakes, the MK Lightning ones. I even saw that our old announcer Ray bought one and got it shipped to California. But yeah, no. In all seriousness, Dick, I think every time I do an interview or speak publicly, I always say the same thing. Like, the supporters club are phenomenal. You know, the amount of revenue they're able to generate for us, we wouldn't have the same team on the ice if it wasn't for that. You know, the raffles. You know, obviously updating the online shop to have different merchandise in it for the summer months and all that stuff. And you know, those people are probably just as frustrated as I am, and you are, and everybody else, the players are, because, you know, they love being in the rink, selling their 50-50, selling their shirt off the back, tickets and whatever. And, you know, everyone just wants to go back and do what they do, you know, and their role within the club is just as important as mine, as yours, as anybody else's, because, you know, again, it's a house of cards, isn't it? And you need all of the cards there to keep the one at the top standing. And yeah, I've got so much time and gratitude really towards the supporters club and what they've done. You know, even though we've been closed down for a long time now, they're still generating funds. You know, and you know, I can't say thanks enough for that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And actually, whilst we're on the subject of the sports club, it'd be fair to say thank you to Jan Halford, of course, who Dave announced just last week, I think it was, that Jan's stepping away from the committee of supporters club because she wants to spend a bit more time. Her family sort of got two sons, and they're spread around the country, or
I know
Jan's
sons. I coached them both actually when they were young. Yeah.
So I think they're married with kids. And I think Jan wants to spend a bit more time with the family and grandkids anyway. So thank you so much to Jan for the years of service on the supporters club committee that she's put in, and you know, helping alongside Dave, Mary, and Richard as well, and of course Rebecca and all the supporters club helper. But many thanks to Jan, and thanks to the fans as well for sticking with everything, and you know, just taking in all the information, not being too pushy. Of course, there's always questions, but nobody's been over the top with the question. Everybody understands what's going on.
Yeah, I think, you know what, for once, you know, there's always, you know, so when things go wrong, generally, there's always someone to blame, right? There's always some criticism to be thrown around. But right now, this isn't anyone's fault. You know, the situation we're in is not anybody's fault. You know, we're desperate to be back, and the fans, I'm assuming, most of are desperate to be back watching. You know, I'm not only obviously as a hockey coach, I'm a massive sports fan, and gradually as different sports have come back, you know, football came back. Now that NHL's back, that's why I've probably got these big black bags under my eyes, because I'm up watching hockey every night. But you know, the rugby's back on the 15th of August. You know, for me as a sports fan who's been stuck in my house far too much over the last 5 months or whatever it is, you know, as those different things come back, my life gets a bit more exciting, right? Because it's not very exciting at the moment. So, you know, I know that all the supporters are desperate to go back, and you know, I'm sure a lot of them, if we said we've got a game tomorrow, a lot of them would be there.
Oh, they'd be there.
Mask yourself up, wear your PPE, don't take any risks. But I'm pretty sure that we'd get a decent crowd if we had a game, you know, tomorrow in Milton Keynes. And it doesn't really surprise me, because I know how good the fans are. I know that they turn up in numbers, and you know how much noise they generate. And really, you know, as a team, as a coach speaking on behalf of the team, I know all the players are absolutely desperate to get back on the ice and play in front of that crowd.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's pretty much it, mate. Thanks very much for that. I think what we can do now is probably let fans know that as we start coming into the next few months, as things hopefully start to move forward, because they will at some point, we can start to have a few more of these videos maybe and start updating people about what's going on and so on and so forth. And fingers crossed to start ramping up. But listen, Cliff, for now, thanks so much for giving up your time, mate. I know, I was going to say, I know you're busy.
I'm not. Yeah, I was going to say, giving up my time. If there's one thing I am blessed with at the minute, it's time.
I was trying to make it look good, trying to make the ending sound good. But listen, thanks again, mate. Thanks for the update. Do appreciate it. And obviously, we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, cheers, Dicko. Nice to speak to you, mate.
Cheers, mate.